The earlier we speak about this, the better. Rather than just burying our head into the sands and the reality hits us without noticing. These are 6 jobs that will actually disappear by the time we are talking about 2030. Or if it doesn't happen about 2030, 2035, it is here with you. Or maybe even earlier than that, all right? So let's get into the business because I've always been telling you, be very careful where you're employed because one day you can wake up and your job does not exist. For example, this era of AI, that AI, artificial technology is taking all over the places. Now, let's get to the business. But before we do that, this is your first time watching me. My name is Joseph. Talk about money, investment, anything related to exactly that. If that's a cup of your coffee, hey, make sure that you hit that subscription button down below there and like the video. So comment down below. Tell me what you think. Let's get to the business. Now, the point number one is cashier. What are these people? These are the guys who usually sign you out when you get yourself from, say, in a supermarket or maybe hypermarket or grocery store, convenience store, whatever the place is. By the way, this is not even a dream. This is a thing that is happening out there. For example, hey, if you're watching this from Africa, obviously the first world country, this thing is happening out there. There's those two things where you call them the self-checkouts, whereby I don't know. Let me just explain this. They usually queue on a line before you get checkout from the cashier, and then you get out of the supermarket. Now there is a place where they have those machines. You can just check yourself out. This is happening. This is real. So it's better you guys understand it better that it can actually replace you. And by the way, let me tell you one secret. Whenever it comes to any business or investment, one thing that investor thinks about is how they can maximize the returns in terms of the income. So if they realize they can just install some few machines out there and people can actually check them out by themselves, then it means that they can do away with like 10 or so people in that specific place. Then it means like if you were to counter the cost of actually having the software engineers or whatever, they just go ahead and do away with people and they can actually replace you guys with those machines so that they can maximize on how much they're able to make actually out there. All right, now this is the point. Now, one thing that you're supposed to understand is that be very careful, and what you're supposed to do is actually at all the time make sure that you put yourself relevant at all the time. So how about you go to the next one? The next one is all about this issue of, travel agency. All right, let me just ask a very simple question. When was the last time that you actually wanted to travel somewhere and actually involved a travel agency? Like when I say travel agency, I mean like as an individual, like, hey, how are you? I would like to. Hardly we doing this nowadays. People are doing so by booking from the website, and people are doing so online bookings and all those kind of things. For example, there are big websites in Kenya, not even in Kenya, in the globally, like the Airbnbs, the booking.com and all those places. And maybe if you just want to have some services pertaining to agency in terms of traveling from one place to the other, you can just rely on website. From the website you get several things like you can get the customer care from the other end of the phone. You can actually be told all the packages traveling one place to the other, what you can actually eat and where you sleep, how much it cost you for the family members and all those kind of things. I mean, like everything you can do so online. Yeah, I understand back then these people used to like break in a lot of money because there were some guys who used to be called by the tourists before they show up to the country, and they're like, hey, you know what, I'm showing up to Kenya in this and this date, and I would like you to take us through on this and this. Okay, there's a difference between travel agency and also something called the tour guide. You see, tour guide is different from travel agency. Travel agency is just a body somewhere set aside for just consultation about traveling and all those kind of things. Some people may tend to bypass that and go directly to the travel agency. For example, if you have some yourself like the safari cars and what have you, they just bypass that, they go directly to you. So by virtue of you having these safari cars and what have you, you definitely probably know where we're gonna go. So why would I even go ahead and consult about the travel agency and all those kind of things? All right, now that is it. All right, now the other job that has actually stands to disappear by this AI or by this age or by that year is this job called the online writings and this bulky typing and all those kind of things like research papers and what have you. For example, right now as we speak, there is an AI ready in use. We call the chat GPT or something of sort. It's even generating some coding in terms of the programming and all those kind of things. Well, again, I know by that time actually kicks in, we will have advanced methods of actually doing so and getting all this information from the AI. This online writing, the issue to do with bulky typing, let's say you want to write a certain thing, all these kind of things actually, they stand and their life is actually on a thread because this AI thing can actually generate anything that you want out there. So if you ask me, I would say, hey, I don't know, you have to up your game and actually stay relevant throughout the time. So that is another job that that you ought to be very careful about it. The other thing is about mainstream media. What's the mainstream media? Mainstream media is like the TVs and all those kind of things, where we usually watch the news and all those kind of things. Let me tell you one secret, okay? There's some statistics that were released, I think it was 2 weeks ago, from the US, and they were saying this 2024 general election will be like the last one, or probably stands to be the last one, that will be covered largely by the mainstream media. The next ones that will actually come, it will be covered largely by the social media accounts. Nowadays, there are people who usually watch news from the social media handles from different people. By the way, because nowadays most of the guys are actually feeling like we're some sort of reserved from watching the mainstream media, because some of these media have actually been sort of, one way or the other, don't give like, sort of share what we call the biased information or the biased news. You find like there is a whole media system that is supporting a certain, political candidate, and the other one supports like the other one. Is like there is a narrative that they try to push into people, and some of the people who are actually becoming enlightened, they are feeling like, hey, guess what, rather than watching this, how about I go and watch my news from the X, or maybe watch this news from something like, Instagram, or maybe say Facebook page, or those kind of things, or just watch some guys who have some social media. By the way, for me, I usually watch a certain accounts on YouTube of guys who actually analyze different things, and the moment you listen to them, they offer the difference. By the way, nowadays, this issue of reporting the news, the media nowadays trying to sort of create the news or something of sort, but not all of them. Some of them are great and good, so it's always good to make sure that at least you stay relevant. And obviously, as we speak right now, there are people who are enrolling on these universities and colleges to study the media, the mass communication, and all anything and everything related to exactly that. I think it's a high time you rethink and ask yourself, okay, fine, for example, can you just imagine this, between you who is going to university and get the skills about the media thing and what, and an individual who maybe say is an influencer, or maybe they are a TikToker, or maybe they are YouTube, whatever. If you are a media, who would you employ? All right, would you employ somebody who already has the ground, or somebody who just is fresh from the university? Which one will actually go for? It is always good to ask all yourself those questions. If you are the media who are employing, who would you go for? So it is good to actually remain constant by actually being out there. For example, you can meet a student who is studying media. I met one some days ago and asked them, hey, fine, you were studying media and communication and all those kind of things. Okay, fine. Like, where do you want to work? I said, she said, I want to work in a TV. And I was like, okay, fine. Do you have a social media account? No, I do not have a social media. Okay, do you maybe working towards maybe being a director or something? No, I just wanted to anchor the news. You must be a joker. Right now, you're supposed to be having those channels. Actually, you should be there practicing, making those news, telling people some stories, narrating some things. And the response that you get from the people kind of gives you a reflection on how you're going to be out there. Come on, start testing the waters early as this. The other one, obviously, it's about the warehouse workers. Warehouse workers like lifting loads and all those kind of things. Yet what will happen? The robots will actually replace these guys, the AI robots and all those kind of things. Because obviously it will be far much cheaper and affordable to maintain them compared to maintaining these guys. And again, these guys or sort of, they have like a limit on how much they can actually work in terms of a day. You can just put some robots there, they can work through all the time, provided they have all their services parts or their parts serviced and all those kind of things. I mean, seriously, if the technology is there, unless there is a worn out or something of sort, the thing keeps on working through all the time. So it is good to make sure that at least people are actually shifting towards this area. All right, so it is good to think about it. All right, unless maybe you're a software engineer who actually maintain these robots and what have you. And actually, talking of software engineer, this is the best time that you can actually go out there and study some things to do with coding, word pressing, and all those kind of things. Because hey, if you just want to stay out there, you just want to do things manually, where you rely on your bicep rather than your brain, it's gonna be a little bit tougher for you. It's good to make sure that at least you arm yourself with the relevant skills so that you stay relevant throughout the time. Let's go to the point number 5. Is actually cab drivers. And this one might shock you a bit. By the way, you know what? Some companies like Tesla and Hyundai are actually doing what we call the autonomous cars, the cars that actually drive themselves, out there. And there's a time will come when you just want to grab that taxi, depends on how you call it. In Uganda, they call it taxi. South Africa call it taxi. Ghana is trotro. Tanzania, they call it daladala. In Kenya, we call it matatu. Whatever the thing you guys call it out there, you're going to be out there, and you sort of go to the app and grab a thing, and a car shows up, pulls over, and is not even it does not even have a guy driving that car, because it's autonomous. I understand even right now as we speak, we have some cars which are self-driven. and all those kind of things. So say if today you buy a car and maybe say you're employed, you have to get somebody to be driving that car. So what if you just buy an autonomous car, which you can always actually direct it from the comfort of your office, and you can even instruct the car, hey, come home now. I think is enough. You can just imagine that, okay? So you actually do away with the cost of hiring that guy, and you kind of retain all the profit. Sounds crazy? Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but it's actually doable, okay? The 6 points is actually the truck drivers. Yeah, again, this one also likely to be taken over by the autonomous. I know this one may take a little bit of time, but it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. One day to show up, and that'll be the reality, and you'll be like, whoa, I wish I knew, I wish I took some actions and all those kind of things. That's the reality you're supposed to understand. One day it's gonna show up. The last one but not the least, that's kind of the seventh one or something of sort. It's about fuel attendancy and gas or petrol station fill. By the way, this is already happening in the Western world. You show up to a gas station or petrol station, depends on how you call it from your country, and then nobody is actually out there. You're gonna self service yourself, and then once you service, you get in your credit card or whatever the thing that you have, go pay and get out and move to the next level. So don't cling to that job that you're having and say it's gonna be there like all the time. For example, if you come from Kenya, you can relate to this example that I'm about to throw out there. Okay, so if you go to these gardens where people usually relax in big towns and cities, there are these guys usually with cameras and makeshift somewhere where they just take you some passport and whatever. They tell you, hey, uncle, auntie, you come take your passport photo and all those, like a picture and something. These guys used to be there like ages and ages, but they still cling to that exactly. And do you know one thing? Things are actually changing. We have this new generation. For example, if you've been walking in the streets of Nairobi on weekends, there are these wonderful guys, young generation with these soft box lighting, these godox, I don't know, go box or whatever. There are these big things that actually have them on the streets, and then they are shining in. They're kind of taking new photos in a modern way. And the old guys, the boomers, are still clinging to the old cameras, and then they're telling you to take them a photo, and then they go to a makeshift. You guys, if you come from Kenya, you can actually relate to what I'm talking about. So it's always good to move with time. So if you move with time, for example, if you were to go back and sort of investigate the genesis of these photoshopping kind of things. I remember when we were growing up, we used to have some guys who used to walk to our homes with this bicycle thing, and they're taking photos of you, and then you wait like 2 weeks for you to get your photo back. It's like you're waiting for your ID and whatever it is. Nowadays you can just take a photo with your phone and keep it in your Google Drive forever and ever. You have your photo. By the way, it's way much safer compared to even have you the sort of like the hard copy pictures or photos. That depends on how you call them. Anyway, it is what it is. So guys, be very careful what you're doing right now. Always have your tentacles raised, and be careful. Anything can happen. You can wake up one early in the morning and you realize, hey, the job that you're having is not there, or people are being retrenched, meaning that guys are saying, we no longer feel like we need your services as of now. All right, so be very careful and cautious, otherwise you can go out there and start regretting the rest of your life. For now, it's a goodbye. Make sure that you grab that number of mine from the description of this specific video. Let's talk business. All right, talk about businesses. If you want to shoot me a call, you can do so, or an email. I offer those services for just a cup of coffee's price. We talk about different things. You can as well grab my booklets about investments. For now, it's a goodbye. See you in the next one.